Welcome back to the Backlog Boys podcast. With you, as always, the Japanese boy himself, Omar. Konnichiwa. And with me, as always, are my two lovely boys, Sam, the angry boy himself.
Dude, I'm so upset. We almost lost some of our last recordings, and I'm just glad it worked out.
We almost had a lost episode on our hands.
I almost peed in my pants. And speaking of peeing pantses, Alexander, Wakashino, other Japanese words.
Oh, explain that, please.
Oh, you peed your pants?
I peed my pants?
I don't know. You look like you would.
No.
Out of all of us, I think you'd be the one who pees his pants.
And we're back at the cinema. This time to watch Blade Runner 2049. And for my instance, I had to watch Blade Runner, original Blade Runner, which was epic as hell. So since I'm the only one that watched Blade Runner recently, Alexander here didn't watch it at all.
I'm sorry. You guys got me watching JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. And
Like a weeboo. I'm the Japanese boy.
it's just so good.
And then Sam, what about you?
I saw it maybe a couple months ago, but it was nice. I've never seen it before then, but I've always heard that Blade Runner was pretty cool, and it was like the big inspiration for cyberpunk type stuff. So
Wasn't it like a big flop when it first came out?
So, I'm glad you mentioned that. Because as I mentioned in the previous episode, I have my new segment. What's that? Facts and stats. I'm going to talk about Blade Runner. Because this isn't a review about Blade Runner, original Blade Runner. It's a review about 2049. So I'm going to kind of speed through some of the Blade Runner stuff. But I did watch it right before I watched 2049. So I'm the one with the freshest mind of this. One, shit's old as hell. 1982. That's when that shit came out.
Yeah, it had a young Harrison Ford.
Like, I think it was exactly 40 years.
Jesus.
Now, since that movie came out. Ridley Scott directed it. I'm only mentioning the screenplay people because it's kind of important for later. Hampton Fackner, I hope I said that right, and David Peoples, they're the screenplayers. But this is also based off a book. As our previous movie was Jojo Rabbit, this one's also based off a book called Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep. This one's different because only one of those guys read the book. Ridley Scott did not read the book.
Oh.
One of the guys, Fackner, he read the book, and the other two did not. But when they were making the movie, they were like, "Should we read it?" They were like, "Nah, just fuck it." Like he gave them like the clip notes of what was important for the movie. But this movie is based off that book. The budget of this movie was $30 million. You have to multiply it by 2 to count the advertisement, which is $60 million. But this is 1982, so inflation rate is different.
That's a lot of money.
So $60 million to us now, it's $164.4 million.
Jeez.
For current times.
That's as much as a Marvel movie gets, right?
Yeah, basically in the hundred millions.
Damn.
So it needed to make, for back then, $60 million to make any profit. Box office $41.6 million, which for us 122.
Yeah.
Which is good, but it was a flop for them.
That's why it took so long to get a sequel.
Now for them, its opening weekend was 6.1 million, which is 18 million for today. And the issue was that month, which was June, 3 big movies came out. One not as big, but the other 2 were pretty big. Around the same day, The Thing came out.
Okay.
John Carpenter's The Thing. Also bombed. We'll talk about that hopefully eventually in the future. That's one of my movies.
Yeah.
That only made 3.1 million that week. So, if that one bombed, imagine fucking The Thing.
Yeah.
The other 2 movies was Star Trek 2, Wrath of Khan, that came out 2 weeks before that. And the other big movie, E.T., came out.
That'll do it.
And that shit made so much money. Opening week was 11 million, which is 32 for us, which was pretty high back then. You know how much it grossed?
How much?
359 million back then.
Jesus.
For inflation, $1 billion. And that's just the year. I'm not including it re-released multiple times and shit.
What the fuck were people back then on? Out of all those movies,
Yeah, E.T. was the
Blade Runner
thing,
sounds
man.
the most interesting to me.
E.T.'s second week, which was Blade Runner's first week, I think it cracked 13 million. So that shit, no one was watching
I wish I could go back and
Thing
slap people.
and Blade Runner because there were new things. They were like E.T. was a family movie. Star Trek 2 was a sequel to Star Trek 1.
Yeah.
And Blade Runner is there is no thing before that unless you read the book and you knew the book was from that or whatever.
How accurate is the adaptation?
The author, sadly, he died before the movie finished, but he was there and he said especially Harrison Ford's Deckard. He's like he's Deckard.
Oh,
He was
okay.
like, this is the wow I envisioned Deckard was Harrison Ford's portrayal.
Nice.
But he said in the beginning, because I want to talk about this, there were 8 versions of this movie that exist. He's seen maybe like 5 of them because he died before the theatrical release came out. But the first couple ones he didn't like. But then after on the later ends, he ended up liking it. But again, sadly, he did
How many
die.
were released?
So I'm gonna talk about each version because
Okay.
I think all of them are not that long, but they are quite interesting. One of them, I call it the OG version, was 4 hours long.
Jesus.
But the only people who saw it were like the people who financed the movie in the studio. people.
Okay.
And they were like, "This movie's beautiful. This makes no sense. It's way too fucking long."
Make it shorter.
So Ridley Scott was like, "Fuck, all right, I have to make it shorter." So then there's the prototype version, which was shown March of that 1982. So a couple months before, because it came out in June, so it was a couple months
The
before.
theatrical version.
And it's more, it was roughly edited. There are a couple more scenes not in it, and the people who watched that movie did not like it.
Okay.
So the prototype was canned,
Was this like a screen test?
basically.
Okay.
But it was a different kind of, it was a different movie than what they ended up making.
Yeah.
But the prototype, remember that one, because I was going to come back a bit later. There was a sneak peek version, which was only shown in San Diego once, which was basically the same theatrical version, but it had extra scenes in it.
Mm-hmm.
Because that was reviewed positively, they were like, that's it. We were greenlit.
Okay.
So there's the theatrical release. Came out in June, whatever. That one was different in the aspect of, because I know you haven't seen it, and I don't know how much you remember of it. The ending's different. And a lot of the scenes that the final cut have are cut out completely.
Yeah.
So in the U.S. release, the ending is a happy ending, which is less ambiguous than it was in the later versions of it. And the original one had a narration by Harrison Ford. And the issue came up was, originally they were going to add Ridley Scott was going to add narration, but not to explain things, but to like add like context to philosophies and like what Deckard was going through, because Harrison Ford was going to do the narration the whole time for his character.
Okay.
But then they kind of decided we'll do some narrations, but we'll just add more scenes instead. The issue was when they finished production, Ridley Scott was fired
Oh.
because he went over budget of the movie. So he was fired. And because of that, post-production started. That means the narration stuff was not out of his hands anymore.
I got cut.
So the finance people, the finance people came in. They showed that movie, his version of the movie, to audiences, and people were like, they didn't understand what was going on. So they rewrote all of the narrations.
Oh.
So when Harrison Ford went in to do narrations, he didn't know that the people changed it. He thought this was Ridley Scott's, because him and Ridley Scott beefed the whole movie. They were constantly fighting each other. Like they were saying, like he was gonna Harrison was gonna beat the shit out of Ridley Scott. And people weren't calming him down because he was having it bad. It was a really like scuffed like production of that movie. So that when the narration happened, he was like, "Fuck Ridley Scott." So there's a lot of like theories that he kind of like did it up bad on purpose. The readings of it,
Yeah.
because the readings I've seen some that is pretty bad, and people say he did it on purpose so they will never use it. Although if you ask him, he's like, I did my best or whatever.
Yeah.
So this version was like not released.
This was the theatrical release. The one with the narration, the terrible narrations, the happy ending, all that stuff. That was released in the theaters. That was shown in the theaters for everyone.
Yeah.
And the other one also was cut with like a lot of some of the gore, the nudity, some of that stuff was cut off. The international version though, which is another one version of the movie, it's unrated, so it has gore and all that, but it's still the same movie.
Okay.
Then another version, the least important one, was the broadcast version, which is even more censored to be able to play on,
Yeah, TV.
TVs. The one that is the most interesting is the director's cut / the fake director's cut that happened in 1992.
Is that the final cut? No.
There's a lot of cuts.
Oh.
So remember the prototype I was talking about?
Yeah.
It comes back to play. 1990, a couple nerds were in the vaults of like the films, and they found a film of Blade Runner, but it was just labeled Blade Runner. So a theater was like, "Hey, they asked Warner, can we use this film in our film festival?" And Warner was like, "I don't give a fuck, who cares?" Turns out it was the prototype version. They didn't know that though, because they just said Blade Runner. So they showed the prototype version in the film festival, and people loved it. So Warner Brothers was like, "Ho ho ho, money!" So they put it in more theaters, that prototype version, and labeled it the director's cut.
Oh.
Ridley Scott obviously found out, and he was like, "No, this isn't the director's cut. I didn't do this. Like this isn't me doing this." He disowned the movie, and he said, "This isn't my work." Well, it is, but like, this isn't his director's cut
Yeah.
because this is the prototype version that came out a long time ago.
Mm-hmm.
So, and Warner Brothers, good on them. They pulled all the movies
Oh, okay.
out of it. I think they only kept like 2 of them. I don't know. I never knew why, but they kept 2 of them for some reason. Like 2 theaters still had it, but they've removed it.
Okay.
But with that, they realized that with the success of that, because it was sold out every time that movie was shown, it was popular because it was already been like 8 years. So the cult following was already like beginning to come out. So there was already popularity with it. So with those things included, they were like, what if we actually make a real director's cut? So they did with Ridley Scott's help. Now he didn't like helm everything, but with his help, they made a director's cut, which it added a lot more context and fleshed out a lot more of the scenes. There's more implications that Deckard's character is a replicant in this version of it, because Ridley Scott was mentioned they were trying to make it so they could make a sequel out of this. So it would make sense because the sequel is going to be Deckard as a replicant. Because in the director's cut they had like his dream sequences. That happy ending I was talking about was completely cut. It's a different kind of ending. But it's still like a good ending, but
So
like it's different.
What would you say is the canon version of 2049?
I'm glad you asked because that leads into the next segment.
Okay.
The final cut.
The final cut.
2000s. Ridley Scott being like, fuck this, man. I really want to make this great movie. He decided to like organize it and he talked to Warner Brothers and they said, hey, fuck it, you can do it. So he did everything. He edited it, he reshot anything he wanted. Warner Brothers, you do whatever you want. Because they made so much money already. They're like, you can just do it.
Yeah.
So the final cut is exactly what he wanted out of the movie. It has no narration, all the blood, gore, the sex. It was not that much sex in it, but like that, more scenes fleshed out, more symbolisms about like religion and all that. Like that's all back in the final cut. And that came out in 2007. It was supposed to come out earlier, but there was a lot of like.
So that came out in 2007.
Yeah, that came out in
Jesus.
2007, 25 years after the original one, the final cut. Yeah, poor Ridley Scott, right?
And then I'm guessing this is what got the ball rolling for 2049.
So because it was only released like very limitedly. It was mostly just a big box set with all 5 versions of the movie.
And now it's like the most available.
And now Blade Runner, one with already the cult following from the original times. Now imagine the final cut is kind of like reintroducing more people. They kind of Blade Runner's kind of been reintroduced into the media, and with Ridley Scott kind of doing more of like return sequels and stuff like that. They were like, hey, would you think of doing Blade Runner 2? And he was like, yeah, I would. Now we'll talk about Blade Runner 2049. He's not the director of 2049, but he's involved into the work. But enough about the facts, stats, and all that. Let me give you a quick summary of what happens in Blade Runner 20. No, fuck, sorry. So what happens in the original Blade Runner? It's not that complicated, honestly. It's definitely way shorter. It's like an hour and 40 or something. It's not. It's like literally a whole hour. Basically, Sam Deckard. I hope that's his first name. I actually don't remember if Sam was his first name.
I think it is, yeah.
I think it's Sam Deckard. Look at you. He's a Blade Runner, which, just in case people don't know, this is supposed to be 2019, which was the future for them back then. Obviously, it didn't come out how it came out.
We're living the future now.
Yeah, we're ahead of like that movie.
We're on our way to 2049.
Yeah.
But they have replicants, which are basically just androids. They're used for like basically slave labor. And a Blade Runner's job is if a replicant ever goes like loose, they just have to go hunt them down and kill them. So Sam Deckard's retired at the point. But the police say, hey, can you, like, these replicants escaped? Can you go get them? And he's like, no, I'm retired. And they're like, no, but you're going to do it. And he's like, oh, fine, whatever, fuck. And the whole plot is him hunting down there were 6. 2 of them died before the movie happened. So he has to hunt down the rest of the 4. And as he's like hunting down, he meets another replicant, a female, Rachel. You might sound familiar.
That sounds
She's a
familiar.
replicant. She didn't know she was a replicant though. That was
Really?
She doesn't know that until like during the movie she finds out that she's a replicant. Because her version is more advanced. So they have memories. How they mentioned 24. They have memories. These versions of them. The ones that escape don't have that.
And she's a different kind from the 2049
She's
ones?
different. She's an older, way older model.
Oh.
She's a Nexus 6.
Okay.
In the movie, they're Nexus 9s and 8s. And the ones he's hunting, I believe, are 5s.
Okay.
And with 5s, they knew they were going to get like conscious and stuff, but they have a 4-year lifespan. Once 4 years pass, they die automatically. That's what the replicants are trying to do. Find a way to live long forever. So that's what their goal is. And then it's more of like a beat the clock kind of thing. Where this movie is like Sam Deckard trying to find the other replicants As the movie goes, all of them start dying except for one of them. His name is Batty. He's the main villain. And the corporation who did all the replicants, Tyrell, which I mentioned in 2049, he's in that movie. He's the one who made the replicants to begin with. He gets killed. Batty kills him because Tyrell is like, oh, like you're gonna die, but that's beautiful because like, oh, you're perfect, but like, that makes you like it makes your flame burn longer, quicker, because you're so great. And obviously Batty's like, that's not what I want. So he fucking like he gouges his eye. It's so gross. He fucking like puts his thumb in his eyes and like squeezes that shit. It's fucking disgusting. So he kills Tyrell. So Tyrell's dead. That's why in the future, like Tyrell's not really. Oh, I'll explain a little more about that. Why Tyrell's not in it though. But he dies, and eventually, Batty does die, but because of time, he dies because of his time expired.
It's 4 years.
Not because of Decker doesn't kill him.
Okay.
But because of that, a lot of those scenes. A big issue was Deckard a replicant or not? The movie never answers that.
The sequel kind of answers it, doesn't it?
It kind of does.
It does and it does. And again, because Ridley Scott said yes, he is.
Okay.
Harrison Ford and every other actor in it said that's dumb. No. But because they said that, he was like, he kind of made it more ambiguous.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of scenes, especially in the final cut. It gives you more evidence that he is a replicant. But again, the movie never answers that question.
Yeah.
But the end of the movie is him and Rachel escape LA, and they go off.
And then
this technically doesn't lead into 2049.
It kind of does.
But that kind of gives you the backdrop.
Well, now I'm curious because wasn't the whole point of this sequel that a human and a replicant had a baby?
The whole point was that a replicant made a baby anyways.
Okay.
In general, that shouldn't have been the thing.
Yeah.
But real quick though, there were 3 short films made before 2049 came out. That was going to explain the stuff that happened between original Blade Runner and 2049.
Oh.
So there is Blackout 2022, the year.
Which they talk
Which
about.
they explain in the movies about
Nope.
that. As of the blackout that happened, that they lost all the data and all that shit. Another movie called Nexus Dawn 2036, which is Wallace's character, Jared Leto.
Mm-hmm.
Him introducing the replica 9s to the police to be like,
Is it
you can
actually
use
Jared
it.
Leto?
Yeah. No, these are actual shot movies. Like,
Okay.
This is live. Only the Blackout, it's animated. That's a animated movie. The other 2 I'm gonna talk about are real live action. Because Jared Leto, he's like, replica 9 should be in the police force, which is what the main character of 2049 K is. And they're like, nah. But then he like shows that they work perfect for it. So that's what Nexus is about.
Mm-hmm.
The last one, 2048, Nowhere to Run, a year before the original one. It's about Batista's character, Sapper. It's about he saves a woman and her child getting like raped, and he saves them because he like beats the shit out of them like with his super strength. They find out that he is a replicant.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why they know that's why they call out to him.
That's
because he
why
dropped his ID.
And that's why K shows up.
Because they have his ID number. So like, oh, he's a replicant.
Okay.
And then that's how the movie 2049 starts, which is K going to go hunt down Batista. Sapper is his character's actual name.
I will say for a movie that's very unrealistic, the most unrealistic thing in this movie is that fucking Ryan Gosling could take down Batista.
Well,
I mean,
okay, that's gonna be spoilers though. The actual review of this epic movie.
yeah. I want to
What a
talk.
great fucking movie.
Yeah.
Incredible.
It's great.
It has really good world building.
The director, Denis Villeneuve, I knew he made this movie because I can tell. Because he shoots his movies very similarly, like Dune and Arrival. He shoots these very wide cinematic shots, these loud fucking noises that like happen. They're like ear rape basically. And a lot of his stuff has evolved with aliens and like spaceships and like spacecrafts and like non-current time stuff. And he's incredible with these sound effects, the shots, the color grading. This movie's like incredible.
What else did he direct?
I wish I knew, but I feel like Sam would be mad anyway, so I'm not going to even say it.
No, but I did notice the wide shots. I like whenever they would show a room, I was noticing that in a typical big budget AAA movie, it'll be like a close up of the characters and that's pretty much it. But in this movie, they would introduce you with just a wide shot of like from the corner of the room, and then eventually it would like come in. But it was like establishing what the scene was first.
Yeah, there's a lot of like location shots, these wide opens, dragging location stuff, so you can kind of know where you're at.
Like I said, like this movie has a lot of great world building, and like you see like Kay, like first time you see Kay in his apartment, like I said, it's like Sam said, it zooms into him, but you see that little thing on the top that projects his wife.
Oh yeah.
And that leads up to the part like where he's talking. It looks like he's talking to himself, but then
She's the hologram.
Like
Which when I saw that at first, I was like, oh, this is like a weird like. I mean, it's like. Did you ever see that movie Her? With
a lot of
Phoenix?
the people compare that movie not because of like the plot, but like the element of that character of Kay with
Joy.
with Joy,
Yeah.
with her.
Which I was reminded of that, but honestly, as I got further into the movie, I was like, well, I mean, she's just as much of an AI as replicants really are. So like, what makes her less of a being than anyone else? You know what I mean? Like
not having a physical form.
Not having a physical form.
Sure.
She's a program.
but she obviously has her own like sentience
Thoughts.
and her own wants and desires. So like, aside from not having a physical form, like she's pretty much just another person kind of thing, you know?
Yeah.
I thought the movie wasn't gonna go that way personally, just because I don't know. I figured. I honestly kept seeing a lot of jokes that were kind of just about like, oh, like this is like the incel lifestyle kind of thing.
Future.
Yeah. So I thought there was kind of just gonna be a commentary about that. But no, it genuinely surprised me with the way they handled that situation with that Joy character.
Yeah, I remember when I watched it originally, I was also surprised with like her character and how frequent she's actually in it. She's not in it. After watching it again, she's actually not in it as much as I remember it.
Yeah.
But she is like technically she's present the whole time.
She's an important character.
Because she's well, like I mean, like literally, she's there with him in a little like stick thing he has.
Up
of
till
her.
she's not.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. But I thought it was interesting because it's like again you mentioned like it's an incel's dream, but like this is like a dystopian future, and this is like 24 now, so it's even farther than Blade Runner is, and you can kind of tell that like stuff like sex and all that stuff is like decensored. Is that the right word? Desensitized. Because there's literally a scene where there's like a store where they're just having sex, and there's like windows that are kind of blurring it, but they're just having sex in a store, like open windows and stuff like that. A lot of the advertisements is Joy, her model is all the advertising. The girl with like her skirt is like super high, and you can see her underwear every time she moves. There's one of the model, like one of the holograms, is just her naked.
Yeah,
like there's a lot of that where like it's in a future where like all these things are viewed as non-human anymore.
Yeah,
they're lower than human.
There's even
replicants, AIs, and all that shit.
There's a line where one of the characters goes up to him and be like, and she's just like, "Oh, you don't like human girls,
yeah,
right?"
There's a line. I think I literally wrote, "Ouch, that hurt too." That
She's
felt
like,
too real.
"You're one of them."
Because they like because one, they harass him.
Yes.
Kay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Kay's the main character. In case you don't know, is Ryan Gosling's character. He's a replicant, and they harass him a lot because he's a replicant. Which in the original one as well, there's a lot of they call them skin jobs, which is supposed to be a derogatory term. In the original one, they kind of allude to it's basically the equivalent of calling someone like the N word, a hard R, and everything. Like that's what a skin job. Be calling them a skin job is being mean to them. But again, because they're replicants, they don't really like. It's not that they don't care, but they don't really like. They can't respond to those things.
Yeah.
There's a shot, and I love that shot, where he's in the police station. There's only one time where you see him walking in it, and he's constantly looking down, avoiding eye contact with all the police. Because the one time he did, the guy just called him like a skinhead.
Yeah, a Skinner or something like that.
He just fucking like, oh, fuck off or whatever.
Yeah.
And after that, he keeps looking down. He never looks at anyone in the eye.
Yeah.
Because he knows it's like he can't do that. But it's so disturbing because like he's a human, real life person, actor, but he's acting like such like like android robot.
I did want to comment on that. Like I was surprised how well he kept that like robotic wooden like posture throughout the movie.
Well, obviously, you haven't seen Drive.
Maybe.
Yeah, I will say I've never actually seen another Ryan Gosling movie. I was talking to them before, and I realized that I saw what was the football one.
Oh, remember the tie-in? He's like 19.
Yeah,
barely a character.
That's the only other Ryan Gosling movie I've seen. So yeah, I don't know anything about this guy's acting chops, but I was really surprised when there were like intense scenes and he was just like deadpan, like he was able to keep that and not break.
It's ironic because like he's technically he has to act like a human, but not as a human at the same time. and like it sounds easier than it actually is. I can't imagine like most actors can do this role without like being terrible. Honestly,
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, when we get into the spoiler section, I want to point out the comparisons to Drive because there's a lot of them, but the main one is that Ryan Gosling plays the same character essentially. Moody, has minimal lines, and gets violent at some points.
I think for this though, it makes more sense because he's a replicant.
Yeah.
He's not supposed to be human.
Yeah.
I've never seen Drive either, so I can't be like.
You guys
maybe,
will.
maybe we'll watch Drive.
Drive is just like an alternate universe Blade Runner.
I'm telling
Yeah.
you, wait till we get to spoilers. I will tell you guys all the similar points I saw.
Sure.
But to go to Dave Bautista, he's very barely in it, but he's great for the small amount of time he's in it. I don't like Jared Leto as an actor as much. He was tolerable.
He's
He was
okay.
fine. He was
Yeah.
okay.
But I was telling one of my buddies that this movie without Jared Leto would be the same movie.
Yes. Yeah.
His scenes have little to no impact on the story. The movie could go by just the
Ridley
same.
Scott mentions it's like
Yeah.
if I made this movie, I would have cut some of the
Yeah,
stuff.
no.
And it's a lot of the stuff I would have cut were Jared Leto.
The same, like you would have the same movie if you just mention his character by name.
Yeah. Like if you just had his assistant, the love character.
She's like, who does he play?
What?
Who does Jared Leto play?
Oh, Wallace.
Oh, Wallace.
Wallace.
Yeah.
If she was just like, oh, I'm doing this for Wallace, or Wallace wants the perfect
And you would
being.
know who he is because like there's like random
There-
jingles of the
there's-
Wallace Corporation.
There's a
which
movie
I love.
already.
Yeah.
There's a,
And there's the prequel.
Yeah.
Well, not everyone's seen it, but yeah, there's that prequel.
but yeah,
where
but you didn't.
he introduces
You
it.
did not need Jared Leto in this movie.
No, he didn't.
And he's like in the cover of the movie.
Is he?
Yeah, he
yeah.
is.
Oh my
he has
God.
2 scenes.
He has like a handful. Like
yeah,
two scenes.
he's really not important to the overall movie.
I feel like he's like trying to be an actor. Like he's acting. Like he's trying to act like an actor.
But yeah,
He's
so
not.
I told that to one of my buddies, and he made a couple good points about it. Let me see if I can pull it up.
Sure.
Because even though I really do think the movie would be better without him. All right, so he said that his like the amount of screen time he has shows his nature and why his company is obsessed with finding the child. He has like it shows that he has an inferiority complex and he wants to.
There. I know what you're
Yeah.
talking about. There's
Yeah.
because Wallace is like basically a god. Because he imagines like, oh,
Yes.
I discovered these planets and blah blah, and the why he wants this kid only to be able to reproduce replicants is that that's something he can never do.
Yes.
He can't birth a child because he's a man. So he that's something he doesn't have. So that's what he wants. This baby.
Okay.
There's like and that woman who gave birth. That's why they can't give birth.
Mm-hmm.
So he wanted the woman, but she's already dead at the time.
But
The woman who actually gave
I
birth.
think
to the kid.
all Jared Leto does in this movie is keep the movies keep it away from being one of those cliche bad guy corporation wants to take
What?
over the world.
Well, I mean, he kind of is though.
Yeah, it
He still
kinda-
is.
He still is, but like it kind of like keeps it away from it a bit. Like now you have his like I want the perfect being. I want to create the perfect being.
Like where
yeah.
he is. I think he kind of feels like he's trying not to be the stereotypical a corporate bad guy, but he
Yeah.
is. He really just is.
Yeah.
He really didn't have to be in this movie. Like okay, so we see Harrison Ford with him.
There's a scene where they're together.
Yes,
Yeah.
they're together. But then you go back to a scene where he's on a car, which like in between that, you wouldn't even know he was there.
Yeah, you could totally cut out a lot
All
of
of
his
Jared Leto's
scenes.
scenes, honestly,
all of them.
And it can still make a lot of sense.
because like, yeah, his assistant Love is like that's all you need.
She's the real
Yeah.
bad guy.
She's
Yeah.
the real like lapdog. And that's all you don't need to see Wallace.
Mhm.
The only thing I liked about him maybe is his eyes, like the design of his
Yeah,
eyes.
they're
Like,
cool.
other than that,
Yeah.
it's like again, yeah, I didn't like.
Playing Morbius before Morbius came out.
I watched Morbius a couple days ago. He does the exact same voice. He sounds like he's doing the. He's like he doesn't know how to act. He just knows how to do one character and it's just him.
Jeez.
Like he does. That's why I'm like, oh, I didn't want to really see him as much in this movie.
Mhm.
When he showed up, I was like, ugh, I forgot about him. 'Cause I was like, I don't. Him as an actor is not the. It's not the best. Besides a terrible
I'm
actor.
trying to
Yeah.
think of anything I've seen with him that's pretty good.
I don't know.
He's in good movies. Don't get me wrong.
He made a pretty fucking banger song.
Yeah.
Well, he's in a band, but
Yeah.
he's a good actor. He's in Dallas Buyers Club, Gucci. He's in other movies that are good, but I don't know if he's the reason why they're good.
Yeah.
Point is, Jared Leto, stick to music, please.
Yeah. But I wanted to highlight the color palette throughout this entire movie.
Oh,
A lot
I
of
thought it was
orange.
so good. The wastelands that are gray at the very beginning, the like blue greenish kind of like city streets.
Like gray and dark and shit.
Yeah, and then
Musty.
I really liked how Wallace's
Yellow
like,
as fuck.
it was like golden, like it was like bathed in gold.
palace.
Yeah, and I kind of like how the Tyrell location is kind of like that, but more orangey.
That
like,
was
because of the radiate. What? Oh, were they?
Yes.
No, it was L.A. right?
No, it was in New Vegas.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was in New Vegas.
Oh,
Because there's a scene where the chick is in a camera and it zooms out from where they're going and they move.
Oh, yeah,
and
it
goes
goes-
there.
Ah,
And he's in a casino. That's where Las Vegas
Okay.
yeah,
is.
that makes sense. That
And
makes
it's
sense.
desert. That's a casino. They're not in original place
Okay.
of L.A.
Yeah.
They're in a completely different place.
Okay.
That has nothing to do with
That,
original
that,
Blade
that
Runner.
is where the Tyrell Corp was, right?
No, that was in
Oh,
L.A.
Gotcha.
I think they bought that building and it became the Wallace building.
Gotcha. Okay.
Oh no, when they're like in the desert area, it's all orange.
which
Yeah.
I like
The
because that's
sun
my
is
favorite
like-
color.
Makes his face look like just pure orange.
There were so many scenes where they would show a shot, like an establishing shot of him like looking out at a landscape, and I just kept going like, this looks like I'm gonna start playing this, like this is a video game. You know, like how like Breath of the Wild has that scene where you're on the edge of the cliff and
And it zooms out and shows the whole
beginning
map.
exactly
scene.
like there were multiple shots in this movie that had that kind of vibe for me, and I was like, oh man, I just want to play this game.
Like it feels like oh, this could be like a video game.
You know, I want
yeah.
more Blade Runner.
Yeah, I want more stuff like Blade Runner.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh, we got Cyberpunk.
I do want to say this real quick. Can we please bring back intermissions? Like I got
And you and
I wasn't like
Tarantino.
I wasn't bored of the movie, but there was a point where
It's
I was
long.
like, it's this one is so
2
long.
hours 49, I think it was.
There was a point where I was like, oh, this is getting close to done. Like, let me check it, and then I like check the Netflix timer, and it's like you still have 1 hour left, and I'm like, oh my god, like
I don't know. I think it's just I think just certain people because I love this movie. Like I did not.
Don't get me wrong, I love
but, like,
this fucking movie. It's
I didn't.
incredible.
I did not like look up the timer to see how much was left. Like I enjoyed my.
I think
like,
because
every
I've
single second.
already seen it.
Yeah.
I've seen
Yeah.
it already, and I did that.
okay.
So I was like, "How I'm almost done, right?" And I'm like, "Oh, an hour and 10," and I was like, "What?"
Yeah, no,
What's still left?
I'm kind of mad it wasn't longer.
I don't know about that.
Honestly, I think this would have been really good as like an HBO like miniseries type thing, like
Oh,
8
yeah.
episodes of
Yeah, I
this
could
would be
see that.
so good.
I could see that being like,
It reminded me a lot of Westworld.
especially well, yeah, kind of like stuff like that inspires it.
Yeah.
Because like how Justice League kind of like the Zack Snyder version, like it came out like
Oh
you can
no,
watch
okay,
it in parts.
okay, that is too long.
And that's 4 hours. But you can watch it in like part 1, 2, 3, 4. Or whatever.
Okay.
And Quentin Tarantino, because he loves making long movies. Hateful Eight, he also like, if you watch a certain version of it, there is an intermission in that movie.
Oh, nice.
Or, like halfway in, you can like you'll stop, you take like a couple minutes break, and then go back and then finish the movie. Or
Yeah.
whatever. But like, that's kind of like a bigger question of like, should we have intermissions in general for these long ass movies? I think some movies don't. Like it would ruin the flow
For sure.
some movies. Other movies it wouldn't. So it's kind of like I can see why they would like either the director has to be like we have to put an intermission, but also like the theater has to let it be okay.
Yeah.
It's like that's a big hoo ha. I imagine.
I think anything more than 3 hours and 30 minutes is probably too long.
Yeah,
I think anything
so.
beyond 3 hours might be too long.
I think 3 hours is just fine.
You're pushing it at 3.
Yeah,
3 hours is
You're
like it better
pushing
be
it,
great.
but like
Yeah.
It better be great.
like I was talking to somebody kind of I don't want to get into a tangent, but I was talking to somebody about like the difference between the Eternals and Batman. The Eternals and felt so long. There were multiple times where I'm like, man, I can just go pee. Like I just need to do something.
Yeah.
But Batman and for the most part, this movie kind of kept me strapped down. I only checked the timer because I was really late with this and I watched it last night right after work.
It's supposed to be at 3
Yeah, I was like at 3:30 is I think was when I went to bed.
a.m.
AM. So yeah, I was not. I kind of wish I saved it for earlier in the week so I could have enjoyed my time a little better with it. But overall, I really like this movie.
I think this movie was because I looked up the movies that came out this year, and I was like, this might have been my favorite movie. It wasn't. Sadly, there were a lot of great movies that came out in 2017. I won't name them all because who cares? But I think probably my favorite movie of this year was Dunkirk because that also came out
Oh
that summer. Because this came out in October,
yeah,
and Dunkirk came out like in the summertime.
I didn't see Dunkirk.
A great movie.
What else came out 2017?
Spider-Man: Homecoming,
Huh?
Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2.
Yeah,
Do
that'll
you want to
take
actually pull up the list? I have the list.
I mean,
Uh,
just the big boys.
yeah,
Oh, yeah,
the
I'll
good
go
ones.
Like the ones that would explain why, like
I'll go
I
with
didn't like because I didn't realize. I remember seeing advertisements for this movie
I
when it
thought this
came
came out
out.
like 2 years ago.
Yeah,
Same year, Baby Driver,
yeah,
Okay.
Thor Ragnarok,
yeah.
Get Out,
Jeez,
Really?
Good Time, the one we put on our list. Call Me by My Name, Dunkirk,
Jeez.
Spider-Man: Homecoming, Shape of Water,
Yeah, I guess
Lady Bird,
really?
Coco, Wind River. I love Wind River.
Huh.
Logan,
Yeah,
Killing of a Sacred Deer,
that makes so much sense. Why?
It got
John Wick 2.
It kinda went
Star Wars
under the
Episode
radar.
8. I know you don't love it, but it's still a big movie.
Yeah,
Jumanji, Beauty of the Beast.
Jumanji's not on that list.
I know, but I like that movie. I like that movie.
You're going pretty far down the list now.
Justice League. Original Justice League.
oh
So 2017, yeah, I mean that makes sense why I didn't realize that it had come out when it did, because I just was like so
There's a
focused
lot
on
of
all these
bangers.
others.
Is this when Valerian
Yeah.
came out too?
Yeah, it was. That's the same Valerian.
I-
Was that movie any good?
No.
I never watched it.
Okay.
No,
I didn't hear it
it's
was good.
it looked good.
I just watched
Trailers
Valerian
looked
and
good.
watching this.
It was shit.
I mean, yeah.
I saw it twice.
Jesus.
It was shit, and I saw it twice.
But a lot of great movies came out the year, and I think Blade Runner definitely was the top of the list of incredible.
Yeah,
movies.
from that list, like this. Yeah, I
Yeah.
agree.
Yeah, the moment I finish this movie, I'm like, I should go get this on Blu-ray. Like, even though I have it on Netflix, I want to buy this like physically.
Yeah, me too. I also want to watch the first one. I think I want to buy it first. I don't want to watch it on streaming. I want to own it.
Yeah.
This director, I love him because a lot of the things you were talking about, the color grading, the shots, we might have mentioned earlier, the sound effects, like the sound design, that's all him. He loves that stuff. Like Dune, a lot of that sound effect, a lot of these open, established shots of like these open spaces. Arrival, when like the aliens come down, like the open like space of seeing how empty the world is in this giant alien ship. And this one doesn't have like alien stuff in it, but like the spaceships where they're flying in the sky when you look up, some of the building designs and all that, like the holograms, like they're all like it gives a good scaling of that, like one, how futuristic and how big this place is, and ironically how cramped it actually is as well. Because when you go into the nitty gritty on the streets, it feels so cramped, so disgusting. Honestly, like why would you want to live there?
Well, these are parts that are supposed to be clean. Like in the police station, like it's all white and like futuristic. But I noticed that like certain parts, like the door handle is gonna be like grimy as heck, and like the walls are covered in dirt. Like nothing can escape the dirtiness of the city. Is what I got from that.
And then when you go to like Wallace's place, it's all clean,
All
gold,
shiny.
Yeah.
Like it's all proper. All these fancy like these dumbass designs of like the platform in the middle of the water.
Oh yeah.
And there's like steps of like everyone's like water step. Like
That
like
was
a
stupid.
douchebag would like, make that.
Yeah.
Which is what Wallace is probably.
I was really interested in the way they handle the lighting specifically in the Wallace building, because I was like, oh, they're using like darks and lights in here. That's really cool. But sometimes like in the middle of a scene, it would just transition from light to dark. Like there was just like a lamp like swinging back and forth sometimes. Like it was kind of funny at points. But I don't know. It just I really liked how they weren't afraid to not show everything in full light, like how a lot of movies generally typically like you can see every crevice on everybody's face at all times in most movies, and this one didn't do that.
I think this one, it's superior by a mile than the original one. I don't know how popular that opinion is or not, because people love the original one. I don't know if it's more nostalgia or anything.
I will get back to you on that.
But this one is a great sequel, and it could be its own stand, because Alex said you didn't watch the original Blade Runner.
It's a very good standalone movie.
You don't have to know everything. A lot of the stuff that involved the prequel. I don't know why it's prequel. I don't know if that's
The
correct.
original.
It gets explained. in the
They
movie.
explain this enough of the detail. There's some small stuff that I know, because I watched it back to back.
Mm-hmm.
So like it's kind of obvious that I see all the smaller stuff. But like
I know Deckard's the main character of the first one, but like he really didn't have that much of an importance in this movie that I'm like, oh, I need to know his whole backstory.
Yeah.
like this movie, ironically enough as well, kind of performed the same way the original one did, where the audience, the fan, like the normal people, not many people watched it when it came out. It was still critically acclaimed, unlike original Blade Runner, but not a lot of people watched it. Like it bombed.
You think they'll make another one?
In the box office? Well, I'll bring that up later. I was gonna bring up the box office real quick. So they mentioned the budget, but basically they told there's an article saying it needed to make 400 million to break even.
Jesus.
It only made 259.3
Oh.
million.
Jeez.
92 just in the States and Canada,
Okay.
and most of it, 168, was
Was a-
worldwide.
Jesus.
So it did not do well in the States because a lot of people put it as the length, because how we mentioned it's a fucking long movie.
Yeah.
Like you're not gonna be like, oh, let's do something in the movie theaters. Let's go watch a movie. You're not gonna. It's a 2 hour 40. That's a commitment.
Yeah.
Most people are like, let's wait for it to come to streaming.
Because when it came out originally, it was #1 the first weekend.
Yeah.
Slowly after that, no, it was losing out. Some of these incredible movies like Boo 2, Madea Halloween,
That's a classic.
Geostorm. I don't even know if you know that those are movies are.
The DC superhero?
No, Geostorm.
Oh, isn't
the
that
one
one
with like the satellite controls the weather? And
Yeah.
Haywire. Yeah, that's Geostorm.
classic?
Happy Death Day, which I did hear a lot of good things about that movie.
I did too.
The Foreigner, someone with Jackie Chan.
I didn't even know he made a
his,
movie recently.
2017. Like his daughter died in like a bombing, and he wants to get revenge on like the senator, which is like
What?
Okay.
yeah, it's like a serious movie. It's like not a comedy. It's a serious movie.
Whoa.
Killing the Sacred Deer was also on that time.
Uh-huh.
Jigsaw, and then like on the tail end of it was like Thor and Thor Ragnarok and Lady Bird, but that was like the next month.
Yeah.
To be honest, no competition.
Yeah.
Yet it performed. It wasn't even #1 for more than 1 week.
Yeah, it came out at a perfect time, but it still
It
didn't.
still did bad in the
Yeah.
aspect of people didn't watch. Not that it was a bad movie.
Probably because, like you said, because of the runtime.
A lot of people say it made the wrong time because even Ridley Scott was like, I would have cut it. More like maybe 30 minutes off of it. Jared Leto scenes.
Yeah, Jared
Shave
Leto.
some.
It's just all Jared Leto scenes.
I'm kind of curious now. I kind of want to time the Jared Leto scenes to see how much time.
How much time
those
he
take
actually
up.
like he takes up?
Yeah.
Probably not even that much.
Oh, he's in 2 scenes.
Yeah, I don't
2 to
know.
3 scenes.
He's in a handful of scenes, but honestly, cut him out. I'm fine with it.
Yeah.
Some of the scenes though are a lot of like long panning shots that like, and a normal person watching it would be like, this is pointless.
Yeah.
But because I think all of us like we love that
Well,
shit.
I just want to point out real quick. I think that Jared Leto thing, us not liking him in this movie, it's the first thing we all agreed on in this podcast.
Fuck Jared Leto.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, I never liked him as an actor. But
They could shave off a couple minutes here and there, and I think it would take it down to a more reasonable runtime. That would have been a lot more appealing.
It's like
but
220.
yeah,
honestly, I think I really, even though I complained about the length and asking for an intermission and all that, I can't wait to go back into this world in the sense of like rewatching it and like. There's a book called Neuromancer that's very similar to this kind of aesthetic, and
You can read the original.
I can watch the original. I want to play Cyberpunk. I just love this like genre of film, and I want more. I don't know what else to say. Omar, is there a chance we can get more?
well, Sam, I'm glad you asked because they are working on a sequel called 2099,
Ooh,
Okay.
Amazon show.
With Spider-Man?
What? No, you're stupid. They're making a show.
Let's be honest.
Ridley Scott is on board.
okay, well that's good.
Let's be honest, though. They're going to cast Tom Holland.
No,
Oh my God, could you imagine? It's gonna
but originally when the movie came out, they go, "Oh, what about a third one?" And they were like, "Oh, if it does well." Technically, it bombed, so I think that's why they kind of let him not to do a movie again. But I think it's popular enough that like we can make a show out of it.
Yeah.
Which what you mentioned, like it may be better for a show because it could be longer, but it can just be cut up now in episode bits instead of fucking 5 hour, 4 hour original Blade Runner 4 hours. Like,
Yeah.
like that's too much.
Yeah.
But like a TV show would be perfect. I don't know about Amazon. I don't know the track record for all their shows. I would prefer HBO maybe, but
Yeah, me too.
you know, it was sold to whoever it was sold. We can't really change anything about it. But they
Yeah.
are making
Nice.
a sequel series
I'm gonna have to look forward.
in the future. It's 50 years in the future of this
Yeah.
one.
Nice.
But I think overall, I think we all recommend this movie.
100%.
Oh, yeah.
An incredible movie. I guess now we're going to slip into the spoilers.
All right. So do you guys want to talk about Drive now?
I mean, if you want, yeah, you can talk to us
Let's talk
about.
about Drive if you want.
Okay, so
Quickly.
both movies obviously starring Ryan
Ryan
Gosling.
Gosling.
Yeah.
There's one scene in 2049 where he goes up to Joe and he's just like, "You want to go for a ride?"
Oh,
He says that exactly.
Yeah. And then in Drive, he tells the main love interest in that movie, "You want to see something cool?" And then they go for a long ass drive.
So it's the same movie. It's the exact same
it's
movie.
just Drive.
And the final like fight takes place on the beach
Oh,
next to a car that's about to like. Well, in 2049, it's
sinking.
sinking, and then Drive, it blows up.
Mm.
And then both movies end with Ryan Gosling maybe dying, like to a gut wound too. Like yeah,
Okay.
Like there's too many. There's probably more similarities, but
Probably.
off the top of my head, those are the ones I'm like, this movie is Drive.
Really quick, there was a weird thing at the very end when Ryan Gosling was like taking Harrison Ford to that facility, and he was like, go check your girl or something like that.
Yeah, it's dope.
I feel like he had a weird accent specific just for that line. Like he said it differently than he normally
I
talks.
think because he was in pain.
I mean, yeah,
He's
I
trying to
guess
hold
makes
it in
sense.
because he immediately, like almost immediately after he leaves, he like falls on. He doesn't fall, but like he lays down because he can't.
Yeah,
He's tired.
And then the
I guess that
camera
makes
pans
sense.
up, telling you that he probably died.
maybe died.
So-
It never outright says that he dies.
Yeah.
For this movie, the whole big plot wahoo of it is that Replicant gave birth, and you learn it's Rachel, which is from the original one,
Yes.
and it's Harrison Ford's kid as well.
Yes.
And the whole point is we have to find the kid and kill it. Well, that's what Kay's job is, and then Wallace, the other hand, is trying to get the kid to figure out what changed, what happened, how can we dissect this baby?
And-
Well, at the time, an adult now,
Yes.
but
And
so we can make better replicants. That's the whole plot.
for a good part of the movie, Kay thinks he's that baby.
And I thought that was incredible. 'Cause I remember when I watched it originally, I thought that too. 'Cause
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you think?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's they show all these, and it's not even like such a slap to the face, even like, obvious either. It's kind of like the slowly keep building up more things and more things as the movie goes, and you can see him slowly beginning to like
Believe it.
change
Mhm.
inside. That's why his acting is so
He
good.
becomes more human.
'Cause there's so many times where he breaks down, but he doesn't scream, he doesn't yell, he just like shakes because he doesn't know what to do because he's not human.
Yeah.
He's a replicant. When he finds the horse,
Oh yeah.
that scene was incredible.
He's just like breathing really heavy,
and he's just
staring.
shaking because he doesn't know like what does that mean for him then?
Yeah.
That reminds me. So we kind of established that Joy is like her own person, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. What about that one scene where he sees like a billboard for Joy, and she calls him Joe, which is the nickname she gave him.
I feel like that kind of undermines it a bit personally. But I don't know.
think it's perfect because so that scene where what he's talking, Joy, the hologram girl wife, she dies.
Yes.
And after that, he gets told that he's not the chosen one.
Yes.
He's not the baby.
But
He
the
thinks he
reason
is.
she started calling him Joe is because she kept like telling him.
So
"You're
at that
the-"
point,
yeah.
he's received all that information. Where one, his wife is dead, his fake wife. He realized he can't go back to being a police officer anymore because he's hunted now, and he's been told he's not the chosen one anymore. Which he thought the whole time why he did everything was because he was the chosen one, but he's not. He's just a replicant. So at that scene, he's realizing Joy is also just a generic AI. And she's calling him like any other generic person. He's not special at all.
Yeah.
Joe, he thought it was special because she said that, but she calls anyone Joe. Like he is. He's a nobody. He's a replicant. He's not special. And that point is when he snaps and realizes, like, I am a no one, and he accepts it. That's why he looks at the gun. And he's like, oh, I have to, like, I'm fine now being the nobody. And I'm fine dying as long as I do
And
what I have to do.
That's when he gets all violent.
So
Yeah.
that's why I think that scene was shot to kind of more emphasize that he is that,
Yeah.
and it's kind of a slap to his own face, like, "Hey, wake up, dude! Like
Yep.
that AI
You're,
is not real."
That's exactly what I thought when I saw that scene.
And she said that to anyone. She would say that to anyone. Like it's just as long as it's
I
programmed
think
for
that's
you.
one of the. Or she'll do anything you say.
Yeah, that's the slogan. Like, I'll
Yep.
say
Yeah.
anything, do anything you want or
Yep.
whatever. 'Cause that's why, like, it's so disturbing. A lot of the scenes where you're like, especially with sorry, not Wallace, Kay's boss, what was her name? Joshi, I think it was her
yeah,
name.
yeah, Josh.
Joshi, where she talks to him in such a terrible manner, where he's like, oh, I forget you're a replicant sometimes. She just
Yeah.
but she says shit like that,
Yeah.
or like she talks like back to him, but at the same time, when they talk to each other, she's like, oh, he's a human. But then he like snaps. He doesn't snap, but like there's like that 1 second where he turns into that robotic form, and she kind of is like, oh, this guy's not a human.
Yeah.
And it's so jarring. I can't imagine for a human how like uncanny valley that shit is.
Mm-hmm.
Where like imagine you're talking to someone, and then there's like all of a sudden they're like beep. It's like, oh, that guy's a robot. What the hell?
Yeah.
So it's very unjarring. And then he now feels that because with his AI girlfriend, with Joy or whatever, where like sometimes he's like, oh, like you're not real, but then she does all this shit for him. She purposely lets him break the connection to Wallace, which you wouldn't think an AI would do for their own company. But
Yeah.
that's how far advanced they are. Even I will start believing like, oh, maybe she is like,
Her own thing.
yeah, but then no, it's
Yeah,
that's
no,
why it slaps you at the end with that one
I'm-
scene again, where like it reminds you, no, she is an AI.
It's very confusing because at some point, you like replicants are just humans. Like you even got that one scene where they're like, oh, he's not on like the levels he's supposed to be. Like
Yeah, he's a
Off baseline.
off baseline.
he's off
He fails the
baseline.
test.
So if he's like how they say if he's supposed to follow orders like 100%, this newer kind's supposed to be 100% obedient. How did that happen? And it just shows you, like, I mean, yeah, he's a replicant. He's not a real human, but is he really? Like,
that's kind of like the whole point of like the original one,
okay.
where like because they're older models and they grow that conscience, but they fight back. And the one K's model, which is 9,
they're not allowed to.
They have
back.
more like safe locks to
Okay.
it, where like they are more like human like, but they're way more constricted. Like he only becomes this way because of everything that happened.
Because he thinks he's.
But if he never had that mischief with the baby, he had to find the baby, he would have just been like K forever. Nothing would have ever happened to him.
Yeah.
Because all that kind of happened, it kind of like it fucked with him.
Yeah.
And I think we mentioned earlier about him holding his emotions. There's one scene where he doesn't hold his emotions.
This is Sam's favorite scene.
Incredible.
You want to put that up, Sam?
Yeah, I'll put it up.
Hey, what's that? Ah! That's him yelling. But what an incredible, because you learn that the actual chosen one is a girl, and you meet her early on, but you don't know at the time that she's the chosen one. Where she's in a confined room where she can't be outside.
There is a little hint that it might be her when she starts crying at those memories.
Yeah, when she cries about it, she knows it's real,
but we don't know
because
that
it's hers.
Yeah.
We don't know that though.
And that scene is incredible because she's like, just remember, just picture it. But you can tell he's not picturing it. He's 100% reliving the whole thing again because he's slowly like shaking and like you can see his eyes are like watering up. And then now she's slowly seeing what's happening. And when she said it's real, oh my god, him going like I know, that was like holy fuck.
But he didn't make the connection that they're her.
It's one of those things where like you know it to be true, but once it's like you get slapped in that face what it is, like he can't deny it anymore. He can't be like, well, maybe it's not.
Yeah.
No, she was like, it's real. So now he can't deny that this he thinks he's the chosen one, and realize that his memories are actually hers.
Yeah.
In the beginning, I was like that. I was confused by that, but now I think I've seen it a second time. I get it, where she's putting randomly her memories into random people.
Yeah.
So someone might have a different, like a memory that happened like 5 minutes after that memory happened. Someone might have the memory of her getting that horse. So like every one of those, that's why the lady, the resistant lady is like, everyone thinks that they're special. They all think that because, and not that everyone would have that dream, but some of them probably did have that.
Yeah. Like, oh, this lines up. Like, I have to be the person. It's like, nah, not really.
And that's like a small subplot in the movie where there's like this resistant force.
Yeah.
Trying to also get the baby to be like rebel with all the replicas rebelling against the humans.
I'm really glad that the movie didn't end with like, we took down the giant corporation and everything's all saved.
The movie
like
ends in such a different way you think a movie would end in this kind of fashion. It ends not with the resistance.
It ends with K
doing anything. Not with Wallace finding out anything. Like it ends just with Harrison Ford meeting his daughter, and she doesn't even know it's that movie ends before he says it.
I forgot about that.
He puts his hand up and then it ends.
Yeah.
The movie ended when K died to me.
You're just like, all right, I'm done with this bullshit.
Yeah.
He's done.
It was my favorite character.
That scene as well.
I have not seen the Ryan Gosling movie that I don't like yet.
Oh.
To go back to K, and that's the death scene. It's quote unquote death. It was on purpose to be kind of ambiguous.
Yeah.
If he died or not. There's a hint that he does. In the aspect of the music that plays is the same music the bad guy in the Blade Runner original one when he dies. It's the same music.
Okay.
Baddie, because he dies in the rain, and now he dies in the snow in this one or whatever.
Yeah.
But in that one he dies, he shuts down as opposed to he's just bleeding out and shit.
I would have liked it. Again, I'm gonna connect it to Drive, but I would have liked it if you just hear like a door close, like not like.
Just like the sound of a door closing, almost like as a symbolic
as
thing.
if he's getting into his car, so like you don't know if he's actually
if he
dead
left or not. Like maybe he's died in the car or he left.
Yeah, because that's
it
what
could be anything.
That's what Drive did. Drive like had the character like you hear him stop breathing, but then you also hear his car turn on and drive away.
You're like, did he?
But
drive
you don't
or
know.
someone
But
else
you don't know if
drive?
that's him or not.
Wait. Drive also ends with an ambiguous Ryan Gosling death. Oh my god!
I said that earlier. I'm like,
I wonder if Drive was made by Dennis.
That's what I was saying.
Yeah,
He actually didn't make it.
I gotta look into this.
Because K was made for Ryan Gosling.
Was it?
They wrote this character for Ryan.
Oh,
Probably
And-
after they saw Drive.
And the issue was Ryan has never he's never been a lead in a blockbuster movie.
yeah.
He's like, I don't want to do those.
Who was the director?
Dennis Villanova. I don't know how to say his
No,
name.
not the same director.
Okay.
but they wanted him to be in it. They made it for him, and the reason he said yes is because he's seen Dennis's movies.
Okay.
And he's seen the script and he loved it. He's like, I'll do it. I don't care if it's a
big movie.
Yeah, it's a big movie because this is like his. They said this is that weekend box office was his biggest ever of his career. Because a lot of movies he does aren't that like big blockbuster movies. He doesn't do like these AAA movies. He's not a superhero movie.
No.
He just does these like whatever movie he like thinks is a good movie and he just does them. I guess Remember the Titans is like the biggest thing he's done, and that's like he's a kid and he's not even the main character in that.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, they wanted him to be in, and I'm 100% glad that he is. He's perfect. He plays that perfect, like no emotion but have emotions locked in.
He does.
Harrison Ford is great.
For the little bit of time he's in it, yeah.
Yeah.
It's definitely one of his best performances he's ever done. Because the issue I had with the original Blade Runner was that he just plays Harrison Ford, where he's just like a sarcastic cop, and then like he gets a girl and he's sexist probably to them, and then they end up liking him anyways. His boss is like, you son of a bitch, you got to come back to the forces, and he's like, all right, I'm back in or whatever, even though I retired. And like some of the acting it's not terrible, but he's Harrison Ford, which you got what you get. And obviously the guy who made it said he loved it, so I guess he did his job well. But the other issue I have with the original Blade Runner is that because it's old, you can only do so much. Like their future technology was like Star Wars stuff. They use Star Wars things in Blade Runner.
Really?
Like some of the TV monitors, the noises, that shit is from Star Wars. They wanted to make I like how you mentioned earlier, you thought where Harrison Ford was where original Blade Runner was based off. It's not in Las Vegas. But how it looks was what was supposed to be in the original Blade Runner.
Oh, okay.
It's like massive highways, big buildings, but because they had no budget, they just used like the parking lot. And that's why a lot of the movie's dark as hell.
Okay.
So they can actually see like it's also like shitty material.
Yeah.
And stuff like that because that's what I mentioned earlier. He got fired because it went over budget by like a lot, and like they didn't have enough of the money to do like all the stuff that they wanted to do, which is always the issue with like those older movies like Star Wars and them, where money is always going to be the issue and technology. Now you can like look. I mean, this movie's. One has a massive budget compared to the other ones, but you can now like make these flying ships look more realistic, these open shots and all that.
Yeah.
And I think for the original Blade Runner, maybe it's more nostalgia. It is not a bad movie, but it is boring. There's a boring bits in it.
I think this one works so much more as a standalone like film. That like you can just be like, hey, like I know this really good movie, and then you just tell your friend to watch it, and then they watch it. And
you
they
would
like
watch
it.
this, and you'd be like, I want to watch more.
Yeah.
And you'd be like, hey, there's original Blade Runner. You can watch original Blade Runner.
But yeah, and you could do that with your friend with Blade Runner, but then you got to be like, but you got to know this, and this, and like then maybe you'll like it, kind of thing. Like, I think this one's a lot more approachable.
It's an entryway.
Yeah.
Ironically, as this is the longest
Yeah.
movie, which I know more people wouldn't want to watch a 250 movie. Like the length. There's always gonna be an argument, right? Like, movie too long is too short. I think it doesn't impact its grade for me.
Okay.
For Blade Runner 2049.
I mean, I do recommend this movie, 100%.
Yeah, I recommend this movie the most out of all the movies we recommended, which is 2. It's definitely the best.
I mean, they're both good.
Yeah.
This one's
I
a
think
little
it's
better, though.
No, I wouldn't say a little. I would say a lot better than Jojo Rabbit. No offense.
Yeah.
This movie, I think it just hits. It hits
Yeah.
different.
Yeah, it does.
And it really did like inspire like that cyber. He basically created the cyberpunk
Dude,
genre.
I want more Blade Runner.
Yeah.
Like shit, like remember Fallout 4? A lot of those plot points
Yeah.
is
The
that
synth stuff is just
it's
replicates.
exactly the same.
Yeah.
Shit like cyberpunk.
But it's just not done well enough.
Oh, yeah,
as this
Fallout 4
movie
is
does. I want something as well made as this, but in video game, please.
Like I think that's what people love. That's what I wanted to love cyberpunk.
That's what people wanted from Cyberpunk, but
And I've heard it's gotten better. I have not played the
Me neither.
newer versions of it, so I can't say it's terrible still. But this movie really is like it gives you that like that taste of cyberpunk,
Yeah. It
and
does.
you're just like, I want more now.
Yeah.
And now you're just like fucked because there's not much more. I mean, maybe like I can imagine Westworld stuff like that, but like that's not even like
it's not even as good
yeah,
as it.
it's kind of different though.
I don't know.
Yeah.
This movie just hits really hard.
It does.
I think this movie is just 24/9 is incredible.
All right.
Yeah.
So, guys, should we decide on the next movie?
Yeah. Let's
No, Nah,
No.
So now it's Sam's
It's
guaranteed.
a Sam
Yeah.
movie.
It's a
Yay.
Sam
All your
movie.
terrible movies.
Yeah.
You have, I think, one bad. No, you recommended one.
I
bad
have a
movie.
lot of bad movies.
You
and just
recommend-
intentionally.
You recommended Zoolander, and I will never forgive you for that.
Well,
I've never seen it.
You removed it though.
time to spin the wheel.
Spin the wheel,
Spin the wheel,
Dang,
baby.
you can hear that.
I don't think Sam had as many movies as we did.
No, he definitely doesn't.
Oh my god.
What is it?
It's
Lady
Lady
Bird.
Bird.
I don't want to watch this.
We were so close to American Pie. So
Oh my god, really?
it was in between Lady Bird, American Pie, or Stand and Deliver.
I don't even remember what Stand Deliver is. I'd rather watch that.
No.
I already forgot what that
I'm
is.
fine with Lady Bird. That's good. I've heard it's,
yeah.
Timothy Chalamet's in it.
I've heard it's dumb,
Well, you're dumb.
and I've seen some of it, and I'm like, I'm not. So I'm gonna tell you now ahead of time. I'm not. I'm gonna walk in probably negative.
Well, that's okay, Omar. You know, maybe you'll be surprised.
But it is perfect because, like I did mention, that movie came out. Lady Bird came out a month after this one.
And
So-
we're gonna find out why Lady Bird's better than Blade Runner. I almost called it Cyberpunk.
You want to call it Cyberpunk 2049?
Blade Runner 2049.
Didn't Lady Bird win?
I think it had to have
Either
won
that one or Shape of
something.
Water.
Yeah, no,
One of those two movies won.
Shape of
the
Water
award.
was big, but I don't think it won anything like major, like in terms.
There
of
might have been Lady Bird
awards.
because 2049 was nominated for Oscar Best Picture.
Oh, was it?
It won like sound design and effects and all that
Well,
stuff,
yeah, it should have.
which is it's perfect for it. But director and like best movie,
Yeah.
I think it was Lady Bird.
Yeah, maybe. But
It's one of those two.
it
but
won something.
This movie, if that one was rated higher than 2049,
yeah,
I'm interested now. If
like
we're gonna find
to
out why
compare.
now.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think we peaked at 2049 for best movies.
Honestly, yeah.
Uh,
Like in the back of my head, I'm gonna be making like a tier list.
yeah, I am too. I mean, we only have two so far. It's just 49
and then JoJo.
Rabbit.
Yeah.
I think Lady Bird will be good.
Right in the
What's a
middle.
terrible?
I think at the
movie?
end,
And I
I
can
think,
compare to the
I
rest.
think
of
at the end of the year we should all put our list together to
Our
see
rank.
Yeah, our ranking.
Sure, that'd be
And
fun.
we should put like who recommended what.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we were like, that was
all the
Omar's
bottom
fault.
ones movies are like Omar's movies. It's like that's unfair though because I already seen Blade Runner, right?
Yeah.
So I would never be able to recommend it, but I've already seen it. So that's not saying I have bad taste. I've already seen these movies.
No, but I mean, like in general, it's just all of our movies. But it'll just be like, oh, on your
You
list.
recommend it.
No, it's like on your list, all of the bad ones are mine. Like, what the heck's that? You know?
Your list, your sins.
I
Yeah.
think that at that point it might be a little biased.
Yeah, but we'll figure it out for the end of the year. But yes, next episode we will talk about Lady Bird.
Bird.
So stay tuned for that, and
See you on the flip side.
Ka-chow.
God damn it!
Now available to own on DVD and video.